Good afternoon, everyone. So as mentioned in the last video, welcome to the second section of the last part of the capitalization rules. In this video, we will go through rule 13 to 16, so the four last rules. When it comes to rule 13, we're talking about capitalizing art movements. If you don't know what art movements are, I invite you to Google Google art movements. So I'm pretty sure that most of you know a couple of them at least, but you can broaden your horizons on different art movements as well that you might be interested in. So let's go back to rule 13, capitalize art movements. We can see here on your screen and on my screen one example, one sentence with different examples inside of the sentence. I like surrealism, but I never understood abstract expressionism. Here we have two art movements. We have surrealism, which will need a capital letter. And we have at the end of the sentence, abstract expressionism. And you see here that abstract and expressionism are taking capital letters. Those words can be hard for some people because some of you might not know about art movements. So that's why as well, I invite you to Google art movements to be able to broaden your horizon and broaden your general knowledge pertaining to art movements, because depending as well on the type of law that the lawyers are going to be working with are specialized in, you might have to deal with those type of words. And it's the same thing for medical terms and different specializations. So with time, you'll be able also to figure out those kind of things. Let's move now to rule 14. And it said that you do not capitalize the first item in the list that follows a colon. We're talking here specifically, generally about a sentence. When there's a colon in a sentence, colon is 2 points, 2 dots, one on top of the other, or deux points in French. But not necessarily when they are in a vertical enumeration. So let's see an example here. Bring the following, colon. You see this is a colon. Paper, a pencil, and a snack. Personally, I wouldn't write a here. I would just say paper, pencil, and snack, but you can do both. But the reason why you don't put a paper, because most of the time you're not just going to be in one sheet. But the important part regarding to rule 14 is that you will not capitalize the first letter of the first word of the enumeration when it is in one big sentence. Rule 15, do not capitalize, the national anthem. And that goes for any national anthem of any country. You just don't capitalize them. There's no example because I didn't find it to be necessary. You just don't capitalize national anthems. Rule 16, composition titles. Which word should be capitalized in titles of books, plays, films, songs, poems, essays, chapters, etc. Which words should be capitalized? That's a tricky one. Depending on the school that you are referring yourself to when it comes to capitals, it might differ. The usual advice is to capitalize the important words, but this is not necessarily helpful For you, a particular word might be important in your eyes, but to somebody else, it might not be. And some people might also say that all words are important in the title. So the following rules of capitalizing composition titles are virtually universal. And you see here all the rules pertaining to titles. The first one, the first bullet point, those are bullet points, is to capitalize the title's first and last word. So the first word of the title will be capitalized and the last word will be capitalized as well. Second bullet point, you need to capitalize all adjectives, adverbs, and nouns. Already, basically all the words will be capitalized. Almost, not all of them, but almost. Bullet point 3 says that you need to capitalize pronouns, including it, I. The fourth bullet point says that you need to capitalize all verbs, including all forms of the state of being verbs, such as am, is, are, was, will be, and the list goes on. The fifth bullet point says that you need to capitalize no, not, and the interjection o. And for example, they say, how long must I wait, O Lord? You see here all the words take capital letters. The sixth bullet point mentions that you do not capitalize an article. As I mentioned in the last video, when it comes to a, and the, they will not be capitalized titles unless it is the first or the last word of the title itself. The seventh bullet point mentions that you do not capitalize coordinating conjunctions, which are and, or, nor, but, for, yet, and so. Unless, as the sixth bullet point, it is the first or the last word of the title. And the last bullet point 8, you do not capitalize the word to, with, or without an infinitive unless it is the first or the last in the title, last word. So you see here, there's a lot of content. There's a lot of important facts when it comes to titles. And this rule is meaty. There's a lot of substance that you need to be able to understand and to use properly. Titles, you will have to use this rule a lot in the judicial world. There are titles everywhere. There are a lot of different titles when it comes to demands. Those are titles as well, the titles of different demands. And there will also be some kind of titles inside of demands. All right. So what we see here is that for the first part, the rules that we saw can, vary depending on the opinions, the methods, and the styles that accompany the organization, the society that you work for. As for example, certain short conjunctions such as a, if, how, and that are capped by some, lowercased by others. So again, it goes back to the same thing that I said multiple times. You need to verify. with the person you're working at, with the company, how they use capitalization. You can try to stick to the rules as much as possible, but you will have to adapt yourself to the place you're working at. And that goes for everything. As I already mentioned, the way that you see how to present demands will or might most probably vary from what you will be doing in the law firm that you're going to be working for. They have their templates, and you will need to use those templates. A major bone of contention is prepositions. The Associated Press style book recommends capitalizing all prepositions for more than 3 letters. For example, with, about, across. Other authorities advise lowercase until a preposition reaches 5 or more letters. Still, others say not to capitalize any preposition, even big words like regarding or underneath. So you see here, it really depends. And the company you're working for will need to choose. And if they don't have made those decisions prior, then you will have to see yourself, which one do you want to apply? Personally, I would just stick to one rule. To me, the more the easiest way or the easiest rule regarding that paragraph would be to lowercase until preposition reaches 5 or more letters. This way, there are more nouns, there are more words that will not be capitalized. For other people, it might be the opposite. They prefer to use the first part of that paragraph and say that all prepositions of more than 3 letters, for example, with, about, or across, must be capitalized. So this way, most of the time, every word of the title will be capitalized. So it really depends on you and also on the company. Just ask and see if they establish some rules pertaining to that specific rule, and just go with the flow. Basically, at the beginning, when you are going to start working for a company, you're pretty much going to be like a palm tree. A palm tree needs to adapt and adjust depending on the temperature. So it's basically the same thing. You'll have the basic grounds of what you're supposed to do, but you will have to adapt like a palm tree. And for the last part, I will not go through this because this is very specific. So you can read through it and make yourself comfortable with how you want to use this part of the rule. So if you have questions, I invite you to write them in the comment sections, and I will answer you as soon as possible. So those are all the rules that pertain to capitalization. Some of them are complicated, some of them are easy, but all of them they all need to be applied properly. So I hope you find this helpful, and don't hesitate to ask me questions. So thank you.